Hey everybody, this is Doug Roberson of Soccer with Doug. We have another episode of the podcast, and today we are going to talk to former Atlanta United player and now MLS analyst Dax McCarty. We're going to talk about last week's 3-2 loss to Real Salt Lake, trends that he's seeing from the team in its first 3 games, and a little bit about this weekend's upcoming game against Philadelphia. It's a 3:15 start, a 3:25 kickoff at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We're going to jump right into the interview.
Atlanta United players and Tata Martino specifically were frustrated with and upset with. That happened in San Jose.
Right.
But I also saw a lot of the same issues that I've seen plague this team for years now, even dating back to 2024 when I was on the team. And a lot of it looks to me just like a lack of cohesion amongst players that still don't look totally comfortable playing with each other. And if I look at their roster, I mean, I see players from the Gonzalo Pineda era through to the Rob Valentino era, which was that same year, and then with Ronnie Dyla and now with Tata. And there's just been a roster churn that I think has struggled to allow this team to have any sort of continuity. And it looks like that on the field. It just looks like connections are off. It's still, in the attacking third specifically, Alexei Miranchuk had a great game, and he looked like the best player for Atlanta United on the field. But it still looks to me like him and Miguel Almiron and Emmanuel Latte-Lot, they're struggling to really get consistent connections together on the field. And so that's one issue in the attack. It's not all on your designated players. Right. But when I hear Tata Martino say things like Alexei Miranchuk and Miguel Almiron are 2 of the best players in Major League Soccer, well, I would expect after 13, 14 months, players of that caliber to be able to start interchanging and combining more than they do. And it needs to look more fluid than it does. And then on the defensive side, this is where it just, for me, is just, it's almost a non-starter if you want to win MLS games. You cannot be so open to where you want to be on the front foot, you want to be aggressive, and then you just allow a team with lots of youth and lots of pace to just slice you open in transition. And if Mihai and Barakal is your first choice center back pairing because you like the way that they play out of the back, or you like their intangibles, or you like their leadership, or whatever it is, well, you can't leave them on an island against pacey attackers because they are going to get exposed. And that is exactly what happened in the first half against Real Salt Lake. And it's not all doom and gloom. If you actually look at the underlying numbers from Salt Lake, their expected goals numbers and such things were not so egregious that Atlanta United's giving up really high leverage, high level chances. But if you give great players time and space in transition, eventually their quality will shine through and they will hurt you. And so there were times in the first half where I was in the box and I was seeing Guy Lavogi, one of the most dangerous players on the field, just completely wide open in a pocket of space because the right fullback had pushed so high and a midfielder was trying to get on the ball and the center backs were occupied with a striker and nobody knew whose responsibility Guy Lavogi was. And so he picked up so many balls in the first half to turn and face forward and run at that back line in transition. It's where the first goal comes from. So just a lot to get right and a lot to fix for Tata Martino, but an improved performance, if nothing else.
I was actually joking with someone this morning. I was telling him I was going to talk to you, and I said, my first question for Dax is, has anything really changed since he was at Atlanta United? Because it looks like different players but the same issues, which is exactly what you just led off with. It's very weird to watch. As someone who's covered the team for 10 years, the last 6 years, it's just a cycle of lack of confidence, lack of chemistry, lack of cohesion, roster after roster after roster. It's crazy.
Doug, can I elaborate on something that you said that I think is really pertinent here?
Sure.
With what we're dealing with? And I want to be careful, okay? Because I want to talk about Emmanuel Latte-Lot a little bit, and I want to talk about the second goal that Atlanta United scored. And I think this is a little bit of a microcosm of what you just said. And a lack of confidence, for me, it looks like it has just permeated throughout the entire team. And what I mean by that is in build-up, in building out of the back, it looks a little bit nervy. It looks a little bit anxious. It looks at times really good. I posted a video on Twitter last week, or X, whatever you want to call it, about the San Jose Earthquakes game.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yep.
They built out of the back in a really good way. There was good movement. There was good cohesion. You had a little combination on the right side of the field. You get to switch the point of attack to the opposite side of the field, and then you get your designated player and one of the best players in Major League Soccer in a great opportunity to pick out a cross, and the execution isn't there. I saw that at least 25 times at the Benz at home. And it was Miguel Almiron a lot.
Yep.
The final execution, the final pass.
Right.
Either the weight of the pass was wrong, or he would underhit a cross and it would get cut out at the first post. And so I've seen Emmanuel Latte-Lot take a lot of criticism, and I don't think he's been great, and his finishing has been a little bit inconsistent. But the lack of confidence that you touched on right here with your response to me, I want to touch on that a little bit, because for the second goal, a great pass through the lines from Tristan Muyumba gets your record signing striker, who is your goal scorer. He is the alpha, if you will, in your attack, and he hasn't scored in a minute, and he's through on goal. And so this is where I wrestle with it, okay? He actually makes, in my opinion, the right soccer decision to square the ball to Alexei Miranchuk. But again, if Rafa Cabral is like 3 millimeters quicker over to the goal, he probably makes that save.
Right.
And yet Miranchuk put just enough on it for it to go in the goal. Now, I would argue this, Doug. If you have a Denny Bouanga in that situation, if you have a Lionel Messi in that situation, if you have a Son Heung-min in that situation, and they haven't scored in a few weeks or a few months, or they've yet to get off the mark, do you think that they are passing up the opportunity with a 1v1 with the goalkeeper? No. Regardless of if it's the right soccer decision.
Right.
They probably are like, I am the main man. I'm gonna put this on target, and I'm gonna bury this in the back post. So to speak to your lack of confidence, while I love that Latte-Lot made that play, and I think it was the right soccer play, I wonder just how much he really is struggling internally with confidence, because a confident striker, he takes that on himself and he buries it.
Right.
And so that is, for me, kind of the dichotomy of like what we're dealing with Atlanta United in the attack. It looks a little bit disjointed. It looks a little bit nervy. But you scored 2 goals, and you should be able to win a game at home, or at least get a point at home if you score 2 goals.
Right.
So again, the back line and the issues defensively are still a prevailing theme.
Latte-Lot is not getting any touches. He had, I think, 17 total against Real Salt Lake. It's hard to get into a rhythm. To your point about Almiron, to me, he's a guy that I don't know what his position is anymore.
Yeah.
You talked about underhitting crosses, such as the one against San Jose. There was a moment in the second half against Real Salt Lake near the end, and I think you'll remember this. Almiron had the ball on the left. Latte-Lot made a kind of middle to back post run and actually created some space from his defender. Almiron looked up and did not play the cross.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there thinking, all he's got to do is hit that cross and give Latte-Lot a chance.
Yep.
And it doesn't happen. And, I mean, it's not the reason they lost, but it's just another kind of missed opportunity, and illustrates your point that Miranchuk and Almiron and Latte-Lot, they just don't know how to play together. It's a very odd situation. Defensively, Barakal has been rightfully, excoriated for 2 of the goals scored by Real Salt Lake. But I wanted to ask you, as a defensive midfielder, when you watch that, or central mid, you know what I mean? When you watch that first goal, Tristan Muyumba is supposed to be the 6.
Yep.
He is supposed to stop that attack from happening. And instead, he kind of whiffs on the tackle, whiffs on the grab. Cooper Sanchez kind of sees it but can't get over fast enough.
Yeah. And
to me, a lot of that is more on Muyumba than Barakal on that first goal. I was curious if you agreed.
There's a number of breakdowns, Doug, and as a defensive midfielder, as you rightly pointed out, I would say that in midfield you need to stop a play before it occurs, because, like I said, when you're playing a high back line with your last defenders, your center backs, who maybe don't have as much pace as the RSL attackers, well, you're asking for trouble. And there were warning signs before that. And so, shameless plug, if you go back and watch the game, like I said a few times, Atlanta United, they look sharper in the attack, but Salt Lake is finding opportunities in transition because Atlanta United's rest defense is not good enough. And what I mean by that is when you attack, you need to be proactive in making sure that the numbers behind the ball are right so that the other team, if the ball turns over, can't just do what they want in transition. So Guy Lavoie had numerous moments where he was kind of hanging out. He wasn't really pressing back defensively, but he was in that kind of left half space for Real Salt Lake. So when the ball turned over, he could get on the ball and he just had time to run at those defenders. Right. Doug, I'd argue that Atlanta United hasn't had an out-and-out proper destroyer, hard-man central midfielder since Jeff Lorenowitz, maybe?
Yeah.
Like Darlington Nagbe is an orchestrator. He's not and Bartosz Slisz, he frustrated me because he could be that guy. But there were far too many times where I thought he just wasn't involved in the game enough, either with the ball or defensively. And so I'd argue that Atlanta United center backs are having issues because they don't have a proper defensive midfielder in front of them. And so Tristan Muyumba, I actually don't think it's his strength. He's a number 8 for me. And he's highly technical and he's got qualities that you want in a 6, but I think he switches off a little bit too often. Like I've seen Tristan make some unbelievable open field slide tackles and he wants to get stuck into challenges, but there are moments in the game where you'll have possession of the ball and he won't be organizing behind the play, right? And so the best defenders, they actually organize the midfielders in front of them to say, hey, guess what? We're attacking. We have the ball. Both our fullbacks are 2 of the highest players up the pitch. Well, we need someone to make sure that this attacking midfielder is occupied when the ball turns over. Because more times than not, an attack for Atlanta United, it doesn't end up in a shot or a cross. It ends up in a turnover, and then you're on a track meet going the other way. Yeah. Now, Tata Martino made an adjustment at halftime, and he allowed Baez to continue pushing very high and very wide on the left, but Jakob was actually much more, I think, conservative in his positioning, and Atlanta United looked more secure defensively. So, Tata and the coaching staff, they see it. It's a matter of execution, and so I don't necessarily think I can blame any one midfielder because Cooper Sanchez, Tristan Muyumba, Johnny Fortune, Alzate, Galarza, who looks like a good player, none of them have real defensive midfielder number 6 qualities.
Right.
So Jakob actually was the one who's a normal fullback who played the first 2 games who looked like, hey, I can win duels and win tackles. Because if you don't have a guy in there that's going to have his head on a swivel and win duels and tackles and make a foul at midfield so a team can't get out in transition, know when to take a professional foul, know when to take a yellow card, your team's going to get exposed. Right. And that's what happened.
I'm curious if Martino is going to put Jakob back at, or Jakob, I keep pronouncing his last name, Jakob back at the 6 this weekend and put Ronald Hernandez back at right fullback because of those issues. If you're going to get those fullbacks up, you've got to have a killer. And Jakob, he's big enough. He's a killer. It's not his natural position. He's got to get used to it. I know Tata wants him to eventually be the right fullback, but when you can't sign that 6, needs must, and you got to do what you got to do. We got 4 minutes left here. We've talked a lot about Atlanta United's issues. I want to give its supporters some hope. What were some of the good things you saw, and how do you see them kind of – I mean, they've won 1 game since the end of last May.
Yeah.
How can they put together some wins?
It's hard to fathom, honestly. It just to associate Atlanta United with that type of, I guess, inability to consistently get results and win games. It's just hard to believe. That's a team that I'd never associate with that kind of form. They're just going through a period right now where they need to figure out where their strengths are. And I think Tata Martino is still figuring that out, if you want to find positives. I do still think Tata Martino is tactically one of the best coaches in Major League Soccer. He's proven that. Now, he's had elite talent at his disposal to be able to do that, but Chris Henderson, Tata Martino, they've had success in the past. I don't think there's any reason to not trust them and rely on them to get this right. But it's going to take time. The way I see it now, I just see an incomplete Atlanta United roster that needs a little bit more time to gel. Quite honestly, I think a healthy Stian Gregerson could help this team. If you want to play really aggressive, he has shown in the past that his defensive instincts and his 1v1 ability, he can play it at a really high level. Stian's biggest issue is that he just can't stay on the field.
Right.
So, that's a sign of positivity if he's healthy. Will Tata give him an opportunity? I don't know. Alexei Miranchuk, I know he's taken a lot of crap from a lot of people, analysts, but he continues to produce.
Yep.
Probably not at a designated player level, but at a level that you would associate with a high-level attacker in Major League Soccer, who you could say, okay, well, he has qualities that a lot of players in Major League Soccer don't, and now if he continues to find goals and get on the end of things, like, that's a big positive. It's just, those are some things that I would be excited about. I know I spoke with Johnny Fortune after the game, and you know this, Doug, from my time there. I was very impressed with Johnny and his abilities as a player. And look, if you get him healthy and Galarza turns out to be as good as he looked in his limited time, well, I think you've got the makings of a midfield that could be really good. And I think you've got the makings of a midfield that has legs, that can cover ground, that can be technically proficient enough to maybe give your attackers more time to worry about attacking and give you more cohesion, right? And so some positives for sure to come out of the game. I think Cooper Sanchez hasn't looked out of place. I think he's made some young mistakes, but again, he's 17 years old.
Right.
When I was 17, I was playing college soccer, and I was not yet at the professional level required. He doesn't look out of place. He's made some mistakes, but who wouldn't at his age?
Right.
But he looks confident. He doesn't look afraid of the moment. So Atlanta United has pieces. Their midfield, they've got a lot of really good pieces. And if the spine of your team is strong, I'll always make the argument that you're going to have chances to win games. And so I would expect Tata Martino to get it right sooner rather than later. But to me, the attack will be better. They will score goals. They've got to fix it defensively. That for me is that is priority number one. Because if you can actually keep clean sheets and you can keep teams out of your goal, you always give yourself a chance at the end of games to win with the elite talent that they have. Tata has to figure out what to do with Miguel Almiron to just get him to be more effective. If he can do that, I see Atlanta United flirting with the playoffs. I still think they're an incomplete roster. Still think they're missing a true number 6 that can help that back line. But look, in Tata we trust, right? I know that was that tifo that they were trying to put up that just didn't quite get all the way up. But they've got three home games in a row against, they're all winnable games, all of them. Philly, DC, Columbus. You've got to start picking up some points. Right. You've got to start stacking together some good performances that also coincide with points. And then we'll see how Atlanta United does in the summer transfer window.
Excellent analysis, as always, by Dax McCarty. Dax, where are you this weekend?
I am in studio. Boom, back and forth. But I will be back in Atlanta the weekend after. So I've got Atlanta, DC United. All
right. Well, give Kevin Egan a fist bump for me.
I will.
And anything on social media you want to promote or anything like that?
I want to promote Soccer with Doug.
Oh.
Make sure people follow and listen, because you've covered Atlanta United for years, and your coverage is fair and critical, and I hope people continue to recognize your great work. So thanks for having me, Doug, as always.
Thank you, Dax. That wraps up this edition of the podcast. I hope you'll consider subscribing to Soccer with Doug. It's $8 a month or $80 a year. The paywall is going to go up Saturday morning. If you're a free subscriber, please consider joining the rest of our community. As always, hug your loved ones, communicate with your loved ones, and let's take care of each other.